From the Post-Millennial, Trump nominated for Nobel Peace Prize by GOP rep for historic Abraham Accords. It's not the first time Trump has been nominated for the prestigious award. And I do want to say, as we get going, it doesn't mean all that much. It's a nice thing someone can say. But I do think it matters because Donald Trump, no new wars. Donald Trump setting timelines for bringing our troops out of these countries, trying to get our troops out of Syria, negotiating with some of the worst people in the world, and of course, the Abraham Accords. If anyone deserves this, it's him. However, Barack Obama did end up winning one a long time ago, despite doing nothing. The story is, on Tuesday, Rep. Claudia Tenney announced that she had nominated Donald Trump for a Nobel Peace Prize, citing his groundbreaking efforts to foster peace and cooperation between Israel, Bahrain, Morocco, Sudan, and the United Arab Emirates via the highly praised Abraham Accords. Tenney compared the former president's work to that of the 1978 peace agreement between Israel and Saudi Arabia and the 1994 Oslo Accords, both of which were recognized and rewarded by the Nobel Peace Prize Committee. Donald Trump was instrumental in facilitating the first new peace agreements in the Middle East in almost 30 years. For decades, bureaucrats, foreign policy professionals, and international organizations insisted that additional Middle East peace agreements were impossible without a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. President Trump proved that to be false. And she goes on to praise the former president and the work that he did. And it's kind of sad. I got to tell you, right now we're looking at Joe Biden, who has announced his decision, that he has a decision, not that we don't know exactly what he's going to do. But the speculation is that he will strike the Iranian Navy directly, which would essentially be a unilateral declaration of war and could trigger Iran to officially and formally declare war. And Congress would not have declared that. So that's a disaster. But it's also sad when you realize Donald Trump was president. We had no new wars. He leaves. Everything's falling apart. The Abraham Accords are basically gone. Israel, Gaza, all that conflict, Ukraine, China has deployed warships surrounding Taiwan. Venezuela is going to make a move on Guyana. World War III may be on the horizon. Houthi rebels are shutting down one of the most prominent shipping lanes in the world to the Red Sea. And none of this is happening when Trump's president. Maybe because why? Trump threatened to nuke people? Is that it?
Well, you've also got ECOWAS popping off there in West Africa as well. You've got ECOWAS and the ECOWAS alliance with Nigeria and those other countries. They were threatening with, Burkina Faso, Mali, and I can't remember the third country there.
Oh, wow.
That could pop off as well.
Well, I didn't realize it was that bad. Now I've lost all hope.
It's everywhere.
Well, hopefully, if this is the fourth time's the charm, Trump finally gets the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, way back in the day, Australia, like a coalition of Australian officials nominated him because they said under the Trump doctrine, he's pulled America out of endless wars and that's been good for the entire world. And now we have Joe Biden who's like, but I like war. I think this might be fun. The other thing is that the Nobel Peace Prize decision comes out in October, which would be the most hilarious October twist of all time.
That they actually are like, we're really scared of World War III, so we're going to give it to Trump. And then the election's 3 weeks later.
But what are the odds? Like close to zero that they actually give it to him.
I wonder if you can actually...
Why are you ruining my dreams? Very negative.
I wonder if you can actually make bets on that. Because apparently everyone's going to get mad at me for bringing this up, but you can make bets on whether or not Travis Kelce will propose to Taylor Swift. Like they're actually offering that on sports books or something like this. So anyway, we will not get into that subject. We'll go back to talking about war and conflict and the Peace Prize.
Good.
Look, I'm sorry. I got to tell you guys, it's all fake. Everything's fake. The world's fake. I just don't believe anything's real anymore. Everything's a conspiracy.
Like Truman Show fake, or what kind of fake are we talking?
Because Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize and he did nothing. Like, come on. I don't believe it's a real thing.
Well, he did. He became president while being, of color.
It's pretty big.
And global
brought peace to the world, and everyone sang Kumbaya, and there were love beads and meditation. You remember how great those years were,
Did you know this is actually funny. He's the how do I say this? He is the he holds the record for most children killed by a Nobel Peace Prize winner.
What an honor. What a distinguished gentleman.
I don't know that is actually true, but it's a meme. It's like Barack Obama holds the record for most children killed by a Nobel Peace Prize winner. And I think that's probably true. Because I don't know, I have to pull up a list of all the other Nobel Prize winners. But he blew up a lot of them. That was his thing. He was
unless Stalin won a Nobel Peace Prize or something.
Right.
That's true. I mean, Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine. He was Person of the Year. And then.
Well, so was Obama.
What are you
One
suggesting?
substantially worse than the other, but Obama was pretty bad. Yeah, I don't know, man.
And then the dude that he mentored, Joe, he's somehow managed to do even worse.
I have to imagine we've been speculating this since Joe Biden got the presidency. I don't want to say got elected. Got the presidency. That he's basically just like this rag doll they threw in the room so that they can do all of the bad things they want to do, and then make him the pariah, basically. So they're thinking like, okay, we need to go to war here, 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 and here. Whoever we put in, whoever does this, it's going to destroy them. Joe Biden, he's basically dead anyway, right? He's got like, he's past the average life expectancy of the U.S. male. He's got plates in his brain. What does he care? We'll tell him we'll pardon his son or something.
They did just assume he'd be incredibly submissive, right? They did just say he'll listen to us and he'll follow what we want, which I think is sort of the problem right now. I think they actually did want him to be a one-term president, and he is kicking and screaming. He and Jill do not want to leave the White House.
I don't know. I can't believe that.
I think it's kind of like his ego rubs up against their agenda. Like they want him gone. They want to do their own like neocon, neolib thing, but he's still like that. You know, long ago, he was a fiery dude. If you look at him when he was in the Senate, he was rather forceful. He's got a big ego. He talks about wrapping a chain around Corn Pop's head and weird stuff like that.
Get it rusty barrel.
I was a bad dude back in the 1960s.
No, he said Corn Pop was the bad dude.
Corn Pop,
but I got to be honest. When I hear that story about how, Corn Pop was threatening him, I'm willing to, Joe Biden said, I'm sitting in the pool and the kids are rubbing my legs, got hairy legs. And I'm just like, Corn Pop probably saw Joe Biden doing some weird stuff with kids and was like, yo, we're going to stop you. And that's when Joe pulled out a chain and like banged it on the ground.
Right, but the rain barrel got rusty.
That's right.
Be interesting to see like what,
So many details.
from Corn Pop's point of view, what happened.
Yeah, why can we never find Corn Pop? That's the big question. It would be very very politician of him to take this story where potentially someone was like, hey, leave those kids alone. And he's like, and it turns out I scared that guy off. Look, it works in my favor. Like,
or it turns out that Corn Pop is black and got racially profiled.
No, he was. No, I'm pretty sure Corn Pop's a black dude.
Oh God.
Yeah. That was.
That's not even a surprise.
Yeah, and then someone made an animation of how he was talking about the kids rub his legs. Like, dude, the guy, his story is that Corn Pop wasn't wearing his bathing cap or something like that.
Something like that.
He called
Something
him
bizarre.
Esther.
I called him Esther.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I thought he dived off the board the wrong way, if I remember correctly.
Or he was running or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think.
All I know is his story is total BS. Like, the reality is probably that there is no Corn Pop.
I didn't think there was. But
I almost wish it was real.
Me too.
Because that would be just the best thing ever.
If Corn Pop was a real dude, I'd imagine he was like a good guy who was like watching Joe Biden creep on kids.
Right, and he was a leader of he ran a bunch of bad dudes.
And his daughter was at the pool that day.
Yeah, bad dudes
That's
were
what
like
Corn Pop saw.
church-going young men who didn't like watching Joe Biden like grope little girls or something. Is that
They're
what
like, why is this guy a lifeguard? He shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Wind up going.
I mean, but to your point,
I don't know if this has to do with war or anything, but
I was going to say,
Funny anyway.
I think it's good to speculate about, to question Joe Biden, who gets caught in all kinds of lies all the time. But to your point, video of him exists where he is sort of speaking forcefully. He was influential. He did have a career in politics for some time. And I think that underscores sort of how serious his decline is. I mean, he's the oldest president in the country's history. He wants to be the second. He wants to defeat himself for that title. But Trump isn't young. Trump is in his late mid 70s.
77, I think,
78.
Yeah, so he's late 70s. He's way more cognitively together than Biden is. There are even like Chuck Grassley in Iowa, he is in his 80s and he is more together than Biden is right now. The fact that Biden is actively slurring, and it's not even a question of just like, we don't like this guy. He is declining so rapidly, it's undeniable. I think that's one of the reasons why the Democrats have turned against him. We have all kinds of Democrats who say he's too old to be there.
And at least on paper, he has access to the nuclear codes, which really should terrify people. I know he obviously has handlers behind the scenes that do most of the stuff for him. Like a lot of the decisions that he makes aren't. Yeah, exactly. I mean, which one is worse? The person in charge of the nuclear arsenal and everything else that goes on at the executive capacity is completely out to lunch, or a bunch of other people that aren't out to lunch and clearly are malevolent. They're the ones in charge, and he's just a figurehead. I don't know which one is scarier.
I think it's actually a little bit of both. All right.
I agree.
And here's how I see it. Joe Biden's in charge, but incoherent.
Yeah.
And so people are just like, Matt, we're all sitting at this big table. It's funny because people can't see it whenever they come here. They're like, this room is so big. It's like, yeah, it's like 15 by 35 or whatever. But the table's massive. So you got all these people sitting around the Situation Room, and, a missile just struck a U.S. military base in Iraq. And then the president is briefed, and he's sitting there, and he's got this look on his face, or he's wearing aviators and eating ice cream because, it helps people with Alzheimer's. And then they're like, Mr. President, what do we do? And he was like, come on, man, got your bow. Get it, bow. And they're like, and they look at each other like, whatever you say, Mr. President. Then he leaves, and they're like, what do we do? I don't know what he said. Like, what are we supposed to do? Don't worry, he'll forget by tomorrow whatever he was trying to say. So just do something. And I really do think this. Because when you look at Afghanistan, it doesn't even look like a coherent plan to fail on purpose. Like abandoning Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night and letting random people ransack it. I'm like, there are better ways to pull out of Afghanistan in a way that props up your enemies. And there are better ways to pull out of Afghanistan correctly. And nothing was executed properly. And the stories we learned about the withdrawal from Afghanistan was that all of these different military leaders were just like frantically confused and didn't know what was going on. And this is how you end up with, so like you had Afghani security forces flying helicopters, just land them and get out and run in a random direction because there was no logistics. Once the Air Force Base shut down and the U.S. just stopped, these guys are like, hello, like what's happening? Like we're cut off. And they're like, I'm out of here, dude. Because you're no longer working for any cohesive unit. Seems to me more like Joe Biden says, Truna on a shot at a pressure. And then everyone's just like, I have no idea what to do. And so they just do whatever. And it's totally just without coordination.
Yeah, I think it is a mix of the two. It was funny because Biden did have the coherence to call the then president of Afghanistan before everything happened and say, oh, just lie to people and tell them that it's okay because we need time to coordinate the withdrawal that he pushed back unilaterally. But then they didn't actually withdraw any of the materials.
Right.
The man is clearly sick. Anyone, and even the liberals, I think, know it. It's just that they don't want to admit to the fact that Joe Biden quite clearly has difficulty. So they cope with it by pointing out some verbal flaw that Donald Trump had,
right,
a week ago. Yeah, exactly. They point out some flaw in his wording. So he used the wrong word. He referred to Nikki Haley as Nancy Pelosi, which I think was kind of on the nose. They're
Maybe
basically
that was
the same
on
thing.
purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, basically are the same ideologically in order to cope with it.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.